Hayao Miyazaki's filmography includes great films, some of which are direct adaptations of or influenced by literary works from the Western canon, such as Castle in the Sky, Ponyo, and Howl's Moving Castle. Porco Rosso, released in 1992, follows, well, Porco, an Italian First World War hero turned anthropomorphic pig who shares many characteristics with the Byronic Hero, an archetype born during English Romanticism inspired by the poet Lord Byron. This hero can be seen today in characters such as Han Solo, Batman, and even Megamind. So, what does Porco share with these characters and how it fits into Miyazaki's body of work? Join me and let's talk about Porco Rosso, Miyazaki's Byronic Hero. Before we begin, please don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you like movies, video games, books, and that kind of stuff. Help me grow this community where we all love movies and are depressed. Oh, and spoilers ahead for Porco Rosso and Howl's Moving Castle. When Miyazaki started working on Porco Rosso, his plan was to make a light-hearted short based on his manga The Age of the Flying Boat. The setting of the short was Dubrovnik, Croatia, but with the start of the Yugoslavian Wars in 1991, he saw the current location of the film as a place where battle was happening. Since this political climate allowed for ideals such as nationalism to resurface, the setting of Porco Rosso was changed to also include Italy during a specific point in history, the interwar period, the fascist era, and the Great Depression, which adds a highly political relevance to the story that wasn't at all present in its first version. This context is important to the characterization of Porco as a Byronic hero, since this archetype is often represented as an outlaw and an outsider who often defies oppressive institutional authority. In the film, Porco navigates two spaces. On the one hand, he is a fugitive of the fascist government, and on the other, he is a bounty hunter who fights pirates in the Adriatic Sea. He is recognized on both spaces, yet belongs to none because he doesn't share any of their values. When a man tells Porco that the authorities have started making deals with the pirates, the film establishes that both parts are two sides of the same coin. And because their alliance means that Porco will probably run out of business, an old man suggests he joins one of the factions. But because the Byronic hero defines his own moral code, and his individualism withdraws him from any concerted political involvement, his only reaction is to lament the loss of freedom and passivity.
Farewell to freedom in the Adriatic and to days of wild abandon.
In this way, Porco's form of rebellion is to not take any sides, something that he externalizes through his physical appearance. In Howl's Moving Castle, Sophie is cursed by a witch who transforms her into an old woman. Throughout the film, we see how her exterior changes according to her state of mind. Every time she lets her guard down and dares to be truly herself, she momentarily goes back to her original form. Diana Wynne Jones' novel makes explicit that Sophie herself is the one maintaining the curse, because, according to Hole, she likes to be in disguise. This is important for Porco Rosso because even though we are never told why, how, or who turned him into a pig, because that doesn't really matter, it is implied that he, as Sophie, chooses to keep that appearance as a facade to distance himself from his past. If we take into account that Porco Rosso came out before Howl's Moving Castle, it is evident why Miyazaki took interest in the novel, since it explores ideas he had dealt with before. According to Atara Stein in her book The Byronic Hero in Film, Fiction, and Television, the Byronic hero may initially appear as an agent of oppressive institutional authority, but in the end, he becomes transformed into an agent of revolt against the institutions that created or employed him. In the film, we learn that Porco used to be a pilot during World War I, before turning into a pig. In a flashback, we see Marco Pago, his old self, engaging in battle against a group of enemy pilots. Everyone dies except him, including his friend Berlini, who had just gotten married 2 days before to Gina, Marco's childhood friend. After drifting away through the clouds, he has an almost godlike encounter. He sees all his comrades and enemies fly into a big strand of airships, including Berlini, to whom he asks,
What about Gina? You can't leave her alone. Let me go instead.
only to wake up later flying all alone. Theo's response to hearing this story is to say, "Heaven wasn't ready for you," to which he replies,
You think? Seems to me he was telling me I was a pig and maybe I deserved to be all alone.
In this way, it is suggested that Porco's choice to look like a pig is a declaration of rebellion against the system he used to work for.
Thanks for the offer, but I'd rather be a pig than a fascist.
And in this way, he embodies the rebellious nature of the Byronic hero who chooses to exist outside the system, because what he values the most is individual liberty. However, it is also a way to separate himself from his past and his human self in an attempt at waiving responsibility for all the death and destruction he participated in, as indicated by the many instances in the film where he calls himself a pig in order to separate himself from humanity.
How about buying some patriotic bonds to help serve our nation?
Sorry, I'm a pig. I'll leave that to you humans.
In the words of Frederick Garber in his text Self, Society, Value, and the Romantic Hero, why does the hero feel sinful if he can choose to be otherwise? Obviously, responsibility has not been waived at all. It has become guilt. However, this guilt would not even exist if Porco was really as contemptuous towards humanity as he wants to pretend. In the film, Theo reminds Porco and reveals to the audience that as a human, he cared about people. She mentions that her father used to serve with Marco Pagot during the war, and told her about the time he jumped off a cliff to save an enemy pilot. So, in the end, it can be said that Marco Pagot was an idealist who realized his role in a destructive war, and his disappointment in himself transformed into a disappointment in humanity as a whole. In this sense, he embodies the values that the Byronic hero symbolized for the Romantics: a man in his fight for liberty against oppression in all its forms, and the two most prominent and not always compatible concerns of Romanticism: the concern for individual liberty and the concern for society, the brotherhood of man. In her book, Attara Stein argues that, almost inevitably, the creators of the contemporary Byronic hero do not allow him to remain in his superhuman condition. They rehumanize him, in effect, or have him voice approbation and admiration of ordinary human values.
You know what, Theo? Seeing you makes me wish I'd never given up being human.
And they provide him with a moral center, an empathy with human concerns, which earns him the audience's affection in addition to their respect. In the film, Miyazaki does provide Porco with a human center, both literally and morally. We know that behind the pig mask, he is a normal person who regrets participating in the war, and because of it, we are able to empathize with him and understand his actions. However, his pig appearance prevents us from fully relating to him. His superhuman condition makes him alien to us. According to Stein, the Byronic hero cannot be reintegrated into society. He has to be rehumanized, then exiled or destroyed, because by rehumanizing the hero and taking away or depreciating his powers, the hero's creators send a firm message to the audience: don't quit your day job. The extent of the audience's own subversive desire to rebel against social institutions must be contained within the parameters of the text itself. Finishing the book or leaving the movie theater, they must remain satisfied that authority has been successfully defied by the hero on the one hand, and that there is no need for them to defy authority on the other. In the end, it is not very clear whether Porco was rehumanized or not. Donald Curtis, an American pilot hired by the pirates to kill Porco, asks Gina to marry him, but she refuses, saying that she's had a bet with herself for a long time that Porco will someday come to her garden, and only then she will be able to confess her love to him. In medieval romances, the garden symbolized femininity, and there was often a rose that represented the love of a lady, something which later was adopted by the Romantics, as is the case of many medieval literary traditions. This is why, when Curtis enters Gina's garden, he says,
"Alas, a solitary rose blooms in a secret garden."
This means that anyone who enters the garden of a lady is looking for love. So, Porco coming to Gina's garden will mean one thing only, but that can't happen as long as he's not rehumanized, since another one of the characteristics of the Byronic hero is that he rejects human connection of any kind. He is often defined as a loner who lacks the ability to relate to others. That is why, at the beginning of the film, when Porco visits Gina's bar at the Hotel Adriano, they have a conversation about a picture of Marco that Gina keeps on the wall. Porco declares that he doesn't like it, and that's why he scribbled over it. But Gina holds to it because it is the only one left of him when he was human, and tells him she wishes she could release him from the spell. Theo, the young mechanic, who also falls in love with Porco, tries to rehumanize him too. In the end, after Porco's fight with Curtis, he tells Gina to take Theo with her, and before leaving, the girl kisses him on the lips. This is a callback to the scene where Theo told him that maybe if she kissed him, his curse would break, like the princess who turns the frog into a prince. After this, we don't get to see Porco's face again. We see that Curtis gets surprised when he turns to look at him. Theo mentions that she never saw Porco again, which could imply that Porco transformed back into Marco. She hints at this by saying in a playful manner that whether Gina won her bet or not, it will remain a secret. So, although it remains ambiguous whether Porco is rehumanized or not, one could assume that Gina and Theo succeeded in their pursuits. But does this mean Miyazaki's intention is to tell his audience to keep our rebellious desires within the frames of the film? Being familiar with most of his filmography, I don't really think so. There is a reason we don't get the satisfaction to see Porco become human, and it is not explicitly stated that it indeed happens. Rather, in my opinion, the characterization of Porco Rosso as a Byronic hero serves the film's anti-war message. By rehumanizing Porco but not letting us see it, Miyazaki tells us that we should fight oppressive ideals, but not emulate the hero's misanthropic values. We should not try to waive responsibility from our pasts because that prevents us from learning and being better. This is a recurring theme that can be seen in great part of Miyazaki's work. It is in the character arcs of Sophie and Hole in Howl's Moving Castle. Both need to learn from their past to help each other and create a better future together. It is in Castle in the Sky in the importance of Shita's legacy. It is in My Neighbor Totoro, in the depiction of old Japanese traditions that influence the new generations. In this sense, Miyazaki uses the archetype of the Byronic hero and his many flaws in Porco Rosso to remind us of the importance of taking responsibility for our pasts. Porco Rosso is probably one of the most peculiar movies in Ghibli's catalog. It feels very mature, and that is because of the characterization of the protagonist in relation to his political context. Even if the decision to make Porco a pig comes from Miyazaki's personal obsession with the animal, he still paints an accurate portrait of the Byronic hero in all its rebellious individualism, intense guilt, mysterious attractiveness, and inability to relate to other people. What began as a short about the romantic adventures of a veteran Italian pilot became a melancholic feature-length film about a guilty war hero that comments on the rise of fascism and teaches us, yet again, a lesson about the importance of recognizing the place we occupy in history and how we can learn to be better. Hey, if you're still there, thank you. This video was funnily enough challenging to make. I'm an English major, so this topic was closer to the stuff I usually write for college, and for that reason it was very hard, trying not to sound overly technical. I don't know if I succeeded, I don't know if this makes sense. I did my best to make it entertaining and interesting, so I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. Did you know about the Byronic hero? Let me know who your favorite one is in the comments down below. If you'd like to hear more from me while I upload the next video, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram where I sometimes post brief reviews. I'll leave the links in the description box. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.